Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Rogue Wave Podcast, your frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. We talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture and dish on the rogues who create them every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook.com/Rogue Wave Podcast and Twitch.tv/Rogue Wave Podcast. Download this immediately following the live stream on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever your podcasts are available. We are there. Search Rogue Wave Podcast or go to roguewavepodcast.com. Tonight, we do a Rogue retro review of Iron Man, Mandalorian casting news, and more. As always, I am your host, Michael Dolce, joined by my co-host extraordinaire, the Lord of the live stream himself, Mr. Hassan Godwin. How you doing, sir?
Lord of the radio.
Yeah, we're so much bigger than radio.
I
now.
paid for that. No,
So
but we can be bigger, but the title is still the title.
What do you mean you're bigger than radio?
You just said we're bigger than radio.
Oh yeah, we're definitely
I didn't
bigger
say
than
that.
radio. Yes, because
I said you can be
everywhere.
bigger than radio, but I still paid for the lordship, so
Wow.
I'm still Lord of the radio.
I think that was an investment that you failed to really adequately research, and you're probably getting scammed. I mean, I hate to be the one to admit it to you.
Yeah, not for you to say. Just call me Lord of the radio.
All right, will do. So it's pretty exciting.
I did the research before I signed those papers, man.
Oh, good.
I'm insulted. I am insulted.
I don't even know what papers you would even get from this fictitious company that hands out lordships. I need to get on
that's because, and that's why you don't have a lordship.
It's true.
That explains
actually.
everything.
It's
Explains everything. Because I've wondered. I really have wondered. But
So it's like Hassan Godwin, LS.
No.
PC.
No.
A little bit there. So it's pretty exciting. We are now officially crossing into sports radio territory, and sports radio for the past 2 months has essentially been scrounging for things to talk about because there has not been any sports, and so we are now officially in this territory where we have no movies coming out. Last week was Black Widow Wednesday, but unfortunately that's not going to happen for quite some time. And so we are in the process of manufacturing some really cool things, but that's what we do best. We try to entertain as best as possible. So we do have some news. We'll jump right into it.
We really shouldn't talk about our deficiency of entertaining or at entertaining, because of lack of content. We should act as though there's nothing wrong, and that, no matter what happens, the Rogue Wave will have something to offer the entertaining, the unentertained, unwashed, masses, as per the need for content. But you're always hanging a lantern on how little content we have. We shouldn't do that.
Well, I like to be as honest as humanly possible with our audience and give a little behind the curtain, because it's fun. It's fun to go behind the curtain a little bit. It's fun to kind of, see how all the movie magic happens, or the podcast magic.
It may be fun to go behind a curtain, but it's retail rules. If you're an ice cream shop and you're running out of ice cream, you don't tell the customers I'm almost out of ice cream.
We're never out of ice cream, though. That's the beauty of it.
That was the whole point of what I was saying, though. You keep talking about that we're running low on content. You keep hanging a lantern on it. You shouldn't hang a lantern.
Right. All right. Well, we do have some new content.
Well,
It is called Rogue Rage. This is all the rage in the pop culture world. We do this every week. Give you a little rundown of some of the cool things you need to know about in the pop culture space. Boba Fett is back. Tamira Morrison. He will appear in season 2 of The Mandalorian as the famed and fan favorite bounty hunter Boba Fett. He actually played Jango Fett in 2002's Attack of the Clones. That movie revealed that Jango was a cloning mastermind. His own son Boba Fett was a clone of himself. So
he was not a cloning mastermind. He was the raw material for the cloners, who were the Kaminoans. So he was not. He himself was just a bounty hunter. He was not a cloning mastermind.
Yeah.
Do not make that mistake with my name attached, because we will be pilloried in the fan community for that. So
what's funny? Then we have to blame Hollywood Reporter for that.
That's right. But then you can correct the Hollywood Reporter and gain and up your geek status.
It's what we just did.
I just did
we
that.
Just did.
That was the Lord of the Radio.
We are a
for you right
team.
now.
Remember, whenever we do something great,
now we're a team.
We're a team.
You were just making fun of my Lord shit before, and now we're a team.
It's either. I'm telling you, it's either. Yeah. No.
No, that's right. Because there is no.
So while the actor is playing Boba Fett, it's always possible something sneaky involving clones is going on, especially since he was eaten at the end, in the middle of Return of the Jedi.
He was eaten, but he came back, man.
No.
Universe.
All right.
What is your deal?
No, but that universe is technically has been wiped clean. Remember when
it's going to have to be the same thing. He still comes back.
You say things like it's got to be the exact same thing, the expanded universe had a brother and sister, son and daughter of Han and Leia, and that was the basis for the expanded universe.
I'm gonna help you.
And the sequels did not do anything. They ignored all of that and created their own mythology. So it is very possible.
I'm going to help you, Michael.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you. All right. He was swallowed by a monster.
Yes.
In canon.
Uh-huh.
In the expanded universe, he got out of the monster.
This is pre-Disney buying the franchise, though. Correct?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
You're not thinking this through. If he's swallowed by a monster in canon, the only way he could still be around is if he got out of the monster.
Not necessarily. What if he was a clone? What if it's
all
not
the clones are
swallowed?
The clones are unless they come up with a screwball reason, all the clones are dead or old or very old.
Everything you're saying makes absolute sense, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form disputing what you said in terms of the expanded universe. What I'm simply saying is, once Disney purchased this franchise, this $1 billion franchise, all bets are off as to how it's going to come back. Now,
if they're going to advertise him as Boba Fett, he has to be Boba Fett. If it turns out that he's just a clone pretending to be Boba Fett, which doesn't really work because the clones are all age exponentially after the prequel era, which is why Rex looks like he's 75 years old.
Yeah,
it's only 20 years later. Then you're gonna have that's false advertising that he's actually not Boba Fett. Now, if in canon he was swallowed by a monster, which supposedly signified his death in the Star Wars saga, if he's not dead, the only way he can not be dead is if somehow he got out of the monster.
I'm not dead.
Yeah,
I'm actually quite better now.
Yeah, so one way or the other, he got out of the Sarlacc. It's the same thing. They're just gonna. I mean, the only thing that could be unique about it is them explaining the unique way in which he got out. Because some say he crawled out, and some say he got spit out. So,
I mean, you know what? I feel like, because I think I was reading that he's not going to have a major role in this. It's not as if he's going to be.
Then maybe it's a flashback.
It could be a flashback. It could be a cameo appearance. It could be one of those cantina scenes where he just happens to all be there. Because we also have more casting news. The Mandalorian finds its live-action Bo-Katan. Thanks to Jack O'Donnell, fan of the show, friend of the show, who you convinced that in the process of him being a guest on our show, that Last Jedi went from being his favorite Star Wars movie to the worst Star Wars movie. So thank you, Jack, for pointing me in this direction. And this is also on CBR.com. Bo-Katan, voice actor Katie Sackhoff, will play the live-action version of the Star Wars character in Season 2 of The Mandalorian on Disney+. It also, one of the things that of note in this is, besides the casting itself, which, is pretty cool if you can get people who did the voice and then actually bring them to screen. That's kind of like the Optimus Prime voice actor being able to voice Optimus Prime when the Transformers movie finally, was a reality.
Kind of, but not quite.
Well,
you're talking about a voice actor having the
I'm just talking about the
photogenic quality to be able to be in live action.
Right. I'm just talking about the consistency of having the same voice is kind of cool. Like, it's just it's a bonus, and we're not, there's nothing more.
All I was doing was merely mocking your analogy. That's all.
Okay.
I mean, I understand what you're saying.
You can mock away. Remember, when you are wrong, it's you are wrong. When we do something great, it's we. Always remember that. what they also said, though, in the span of this article, though, is that all the filming was done pre-COVID. So nothing about season 2 is going to be delayed, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, they were filming season 2 before season 1
thank
actually
goodness.
aired. So
Thank goodness.
I'm still gonna have to wait till October to see anything. So,
Sure, but at least knowing that it's not going to get delayed, that's kind of cool. Again, predictions on what her role is going to be, we don't know necessarily, and especially because her character was involved in the Clone Wars. She might have a huge role. She might not. I mean,
she's a Mandalorian, so
it seemed. Yeah.
Theoretically, in a show called The Mandalorian, I'm sure.
Yeah, but again,
I'm sure there's going to be good reason for her to be around.
Again, it could just be an Easter egg. It could just be one of these, not Easter egg, but it could be one of these like fan. And I don't use the term fan service in a negative way when I say that. It could be some fan service, like, hey, check this out. Here's the continuity. That being said, Katie Sackhoff is a pretty well-known actress. So I got to imagine they're going to utilize the fact that they have her. She's Battlestar Galactica fame. I got to imagine she's got a little bit more of a beefed up role than, say, Boba Fett, even though Boba Fett obviously,
Hold on. No. Katie Sackhoff might be perhaps a bigger name than Tamura.
Correct.
For who's playing it. But Bo-Katan ain't a bigger name than Boba Fett. So, I mean you're talking about...
I meant the actor playing...
The actor don't matter,
Boba
man.
Fett.
It's Star Wars. These characters are bigger than the actors.
Sure.
So if they basically give Bo-Katan, a bigger profile than Boba Fett, that's gonna...
I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Well.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think...
He's gonna have to be. He's most likely going to be the heavy of something, or he's going to be a significant flashback to something. And there are theories that they were already alluding to him being around in season 1.
Right.
So I mean, it seems like they're gonna. But I mean, if they turn around and try to claim that Bo-Katan is bigger than Boba Fett, that's not going to happen. Including the fact that also Boba Fett's not a Mandalorian, so
Correct. So I think what it comes down to for me is looking behind the scenes of things. If you bring on an actress like Katie Sackhoff, who is, again, an experienced actress who has some pull, who has some weight, who, she's not going to sign on necessarily. I mean, she might, but she's not going to necessarily sign on just to like kind of go through the scene, in the background.
I'm sure they gave her a lot to do.
I'm sure they probably gave her a lot to do. Versus,
I'm just saying her story significance probably will not be bigger than Boba Fett's because none of this would be happening.
Sure.
Without Boba Fett. So,
yeah. I
mean, absolutely none of it would be happening without Jeremy Bullock, who played Boba Fett in the original series. And
he's still around. He's still around, right?
I hope so. I got his autograph.
I know. He was one of those mainstays at Comic-Cons too. Like he would be in that, again, back before Comic-Cons. Oh,
hold on. Got a question.
Yeah.
Do you know what other role he played in Star Wars?
Oh gosh, I don't, but I know that he played something else. Like it just dawned on me. I can't think off the top of my head though what he played. What else was it?
He was the Imperial officer in Empire Strikes Back when they're leading Luke into the trap. And Leia's yelling it's a trap. He's the Imperial officer who grabs Leia and uses her as his shield.
What, you got a keg there? Look at you. You got your solo cup? I love this. Are we doing a keg stand later?
It's water.
I got you. Yeah. It's water. Yeah, I like that. Moving on, DC's The Batman and other UK movies are going to begin resuming filming. So the productions, The Batman and other UK productions could resume filming under new guidelines designed to help ease a return out of the coronavirus lockdown. Aside from the terrible impact that the ongoing pandemic has had on global health, the disease has also wreaked havoc on the world's economy and the film industry specifically. Countless films have been halted and altogether canceled over the past several months, much to the disappointments of studios as well as the audiences. However, now The Batman with director Matt Reeves will resume. So we will, hopefully, I would imagine the target date of next July, which it got moved to, will be stuck now at this point, assuming everything keeps going in a positive direction. I got to tell you, like I said kind of at the beginning of the show, we really are in this point now where it's funny. Like last night, The Flash had a season finale, and people were kind of going nuts. And part of me was like, "Wow, they actually managed to get a season finale in." Considering so many TV shows like Walking Dead, we're not getting their season finale till October, and hopefully by then I'll catch up on some on some episodes. So I'll watch it with excitement. But a lot of season finales, they have no idea when it's going to come back.
Yeah,
So,
because it's a pandemic.
No, I get it. I get. We all understand why we've been stuck inside our houses for 2 months or apartments or whatever.
I didn't actually say that as though you didn't know.
Oh, okay.
I was, basically commiserating with you, but
Oh, I got you. Okay, that didn't sound like commiserating. That sounded like you were talking down to me, as in.
I'm always talking down to you.
Well,
but,
I know, but that one hurt a little extra. Extra. Go drink your beer.
You're particularly, sensitive today, so I don't know.
I know. And finally, this is just for my own sake, and we can commiserate together on this. Westworld's season 3 finale drew much lower ratings than season 2.
I didn't even see it. Did you watch it?
No, I'm still I got stuck on the episode 7, and there's so many other.
So
things.
did I. I never finished episode 7. I fell asleep while watching it, and never felt compelled to go back. And since we weren't really diligently covering,
because it's
show,
awful.
I don't know if I'll say it's awful. I think it's
down.
tepid. I think it's worse. I think it's worse than awful. I think
that is worse.
Yeah, I think if it was awful, it would be more significant, and it would take up more. It just kind of is just happening.
Yeah,
and it just a storyline really, in my opinion, this is only my opinion, and I do not represent any large swath of audience or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But just in general, my opinion is the story thinks it's more important than it actually is.
Yeah, I agree.
The story thinks it's doing more than it actually is doing. And it is just a basic science fiction trope, which is fine. But then we got to have characters. If a lot of stories aren't doing anything significantly mind-blowing in the science fiction or drama genres, right? But the thing that separates everything are characters. If the story is not going to be unique, then the characters have to be unique. And all these characters are just these wide-eye, either these hapless humans in really bad situations who find out that they're more despicable than they thought they were. That's the one trope. Or it's the robots who are salty because they're robots and they're being used, who either want revenge and are badass, or they want revenge but realize that there is a humanity aspect to them that makes them rethink that they're okay. That's great, but then give us some. On top of that, you got to build actual characters. I got to be tuning in because I want to see a particular character do a particular thing. I think special effects are great, but let's face it, everything is special effects heavy these days. I mean, there are very few bad special effects.
Beautifully shot, beautifully rendered. The Divergence graphic, I love that as a graphic. I thought it was great, but it is so self-important, right? I'm sitting there going, a divergence in what? I don't even know what the story is anymore. I don't even know why I care about these characters.
Yeah, they're angry.
Introduced
because they're
Aaron
trying
Paul.
to take over.
Right.
I don't know why. Why? What are you doing? What is the point of this?
Aaron Paul is a fantastic actor, and he is acting the hell out of his character. His character makes no sense. It's meaningless. It's a terrible show.
I won't say they make no sense. This is the thing I'm saying. I understand them.
Yeah, okay. No, I agree with you.
In the midst of understanding them, it's okay, I get what you're doing, and I can pretty much see where you're going. But
when I say makes no sense, I mean in a larger sense, it makes no sense the decision making behind having all these characters and this storyline. It just there's a larger
because they don't have anywhere to go. The whole thing was intrigue. The entire thing was nonlinear intrigue, and they realized by season 2 that they can't keep that up, which is why it took 2 years to do season 2 in the first place. And then it was terrible. And then you took another 2 years to do season 3, which is truncated because it was only 8 episodes.
Yeah.
And it's better than season 2. I will say it is way better than season 2, as in the fact that it's linear and you can follow it. You understand the motivations of characters and the since they don't make you work so hard to figure out what's going on, you're not as angry because when you find out what's going on, it's really lackluster. it's still lackluster, but I didn't have to work as hard as I did season 2 to know it was lackluster. So I'm not as angry as I was.
It's
but
slightly,
it's still not really doing
slightly
anything.
better.
Well,
But
I'm talking about me. I don't know. I
There's
don't know how
nothing
you
truly
feel.
unique about it that makes me care. And I miss being in the park. I want to be in the park. That was kind of one of the coolest things about the show. I don't need to see Blade Runner, 2050. And a
This is
poorly done.
why I guess this is why Lindelof said he's not doing another Watchmen. Season.
You know what though? That shows to me. It's like if I go out and I get a quote from someone to perform a service, and they come in and they say, you know what? When it all comes down to, we really shouldn't do the service because you don't need it. This is not something that is going to benefit in any way, shape, or form. And anything I bring you would literally be lip service because I don't know what I could do that's going to actually accomplish the mission that you're trying to accomplish. I would much rather that approach than
I think you have to have.
back.
I think you have to be in a specific kind of situation.
Well, it's like X-Files all over again, right? I mean, they just showed
you
him
have
the
to be in a level of success in order to be able to turn down work. I mean, that's not the natural inclination of most people who are trying to get their feet in the door and get their product out there. That, look, I don't really have much after this. I'm glad this is a hit, but you're throwing wads of cash at me, and I don't really have anything.
I know, but that's Chris Carter syndrome with X-Files all over again. The last.
But he just kept going. That's what I'm talking about. So I mean, I'm talking about Lindelof, like being able to just to go, look, I don't really have anything after this, so I'm out. I don't want to. Whatever I got, it's probably a little more than he expected to get. The accolades that he got was probably a little more than he expected to get, and he's like, I'm not ruining that. But trying to be greedy. Also, you could say the same about Benioff and Weiss, even though they are pariahs, in the world, on the world stage right now. I kind of respect. I don't like the way they close things out, but I respect them deciding we got to get out of here. We don't. This material is above us. It's much heavier for us to carry alone than it was when we had George Martin's material helping us out. And so we're just going to get out of here and do something, probably a little less high profile than the greatest show on television. Yeah. And something that, will continue to allow us to keep living the lifestyle.
I don't disagree with anything you said. Again, with the Game of Thrones stuff, I definitely think there was a way to execute that better. What is it like? Recognizing is only half the problem. That's only half the problem. Recognizing that you got to get out.
That's what I said. I put the caveat on it.
Yeah, I know.
Regardless of how you feel about its ending, you got to respect the desire to get out.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, if you're making, they had to have been making a pretty amount of money. It's
no, $15 an hour. $15 an hour.
Okay. And HBO comes to them and says, "We want 4 more seasons."
They actually did it on consignment.
To go to season 10.
They did. We
wanted to go to season 10, and they say no. You got to respect that.
Yeah, I know. No, I do. I respect the decision.
Better than your jokes,
Just need to. No, actually, my jokes are pretty awesome. All right, if
you have to say it, then it ain't real.
When we come back, that was a refute of yours. We will be doing some fun stuff. We will be doing a Rogue Retro review, Iron Man, the genesis of the MCU, coming up next. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, bringing you the pop culture you love to talk about and diving deep behind the rogues who create it. Go to roguewavepodcast.com to subscribe to our podcast on all major podcasting apps. All right, so we did this last week. We actually started talking about it at the end of last week's show. Obviously, and we started talking about it at the beginning of the show. We were supposed to be celebrating Black Widow Wednesday last week, and we were supposed to be talking about all the ramifications of what ended up, how does it fit into the MCU? Because it's a prequel, or it's not necessarily a prequel, but it was in between different timeline, different continuity in the MCU. But unfortunately, obviously, there's a pandemic going on. We like to be a distraction from all that stuff, but obviously, we have no new material to talk about. So we thought it'd be really fun to go back into the maze of yesteryear and find movie blockbusters that took place in May that we could do a retro review on. And last week we kind of did that in a way, going through all the Star Wars films, but we thought it'd be really awesome today to do Iron Man, which is the genesis of the MCU. And first of all, Hassan, did you rewatch Iron Man?
Yes.
Okay. When was the last time you had seen it prior to rewatching it?
I don't know. 5 years
A
ago.
ballpark, yeah, like 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I have not seen it, I think, since it first came out. I think I saw it in 2008. You know, maybe I catch a scene or two if it's on cable or something like that, but I've never sat down and actually rewatched it. I'm finding I'm really enjoying rewatching these movies too, and it started last week when we did, again, Force Awakens into Last Jedi into Rise of Skywalker, because I get to watch it through a completely different lens. This movie came out in 2008. You know, immediately right off the bat, I watched this film, and I watched it in a 2020 lens, and I thought, there is no way they're getting away with the opening scene. You know, right from the opening scene, where he calls into question the gender of the soldier in the front. He did it as a joke, obviously. No way that's cutting the mustard. The scene with the reporter, where they go through this heated exchange, and he ends up sleeping with her. No way. Like, there's just no way they're getting away with it today.
But I don't. Why wouldn't he get away with it?
I would say that it would never pass the studio mustard. They would never want to accurately. They would never want to depict their main character in such a way that would cause an inflammatory response in social media. Remember, social media did not exist in 2008.
Yeah, but even if their character is supposed to be despicable, you have a story arc from from bad behavior to good behavior, right? So why wouldn't, when he's in his bad behavior phase, he'd be allowed to display bad behavior? I don't understand.
I think well, there's a couple things. One, I think in 2008, his behavior is not necessarily bad behavior. So what he says and how he says it, you know, again,
it was bad behavior because that was what he was doing before he decided.
Well, it was
to
bad
turn
behavior
over a new leaf.
making weapons and things like that. But
but he also became a different person. He also stopped womanizing.
Womanizing with consensual partners is not necessarily a bad thing. But the way the women react to him in the film
is not a bad thing. Okay.
No. Look, if he's allowed, no,
he's a little bit of cringe.
Well, look, you're suggesting womanizing in the sense of...
Well, the whole idea, right, is that he turned over a completely new leaf, and that
Correct.
he became a monogamous,
Correct.
Altruistic kind of person. Stop profiting
but
off of death and destruction.
That's saying there's something wrong with being...
But he was getting lawsuits, right? And he was womanizing, and he was throwing people in and out of their lives, and that kept coming back to haunt him, right?
Yeah.
People kept coming back, and people... You know, there were nefarious people who were trying to take advantage of that to get back, to get back at him. So all of that is kind of characteristic of the negative aspects of his personality.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, just because you think that stuff is cool doesn't necessarily mean it's good.
I don't. It's not even a question of do I think it's cool or not. I think when let's take the reporter scene when they have the heated exchange and it ultimately ends with her sleeping with him. I just don't think in today's lens. That scene goes down that way because it actually makes the woman look worse. It never really makes him look bad in the sense of he's acting within his character. But also I think take the airplane scene, for example, too. I mean, I just don't think you're going to have this big party where the flight attendants, allow him to hit on them without some sort of repercussion, because I think in today's sensitive times, and in terms of the Me Too movement and sexual harassment, he would also be more educated not to do that. Now, he might not give an F, which is possible, and that's a character-driven thing.
Where would you take that character if he wasn't capable? If there were limits on what you were able to depict of his his kind of despicable nature, right?
Yeah.
Then what would be the point in depicting him being despicable at all?
Again, you keep using the word despicable, and I guess
despicable. It is a sense of despicality. It is,
But I think in 2008 it wasn't. I think it
it's
was
not
acceptable.
morally. No, it's not. It has never been morally acceptable. It has never been morally acceptable.
I
It
actually
has been
disagree.
socially acceptable.
Okay.
But it has never been
Oh,
morally
okay. All right.
acceptable.
You know what? That's a fair parsing. I agree with that parsing. I just, again, I think, I guess in that context, you're right. But I think that kind of really just shows you the 2008 lens. And that's exactly what we were, what I'm kind of watching.
I think it just
here.
depicts on how, like, cowardly people have become in their own story depictions, right?
Mhm.
Because if you want to control the situation, the goal of this, the goal of the whole first act is to show you where the character is. The act 2 is the journey. Act 3 is the destination, right?
Mhm.
If you're going to show me that he's still being controlled or still being guided by a sense of moral virtue.
I know. I wouldn't call it.
Right?
Wouldn't call it moral virtue. I think he'd be more pressured by society's expectations now.
But then where's the growth then?
Oh, no, I don't disagree with you.
If he's going to listen to those norms and not behave that way,
right,
then there's no growth because that.
I'm not saying
nobody really knows why people act the way they do, right? Yeah. They just there's people who follow the rules and there's people who don't. Even the people who follow the rules might think the rules are crap, but there's people who are capable of following rules and there's people who aren't. So it's not a judgment on his virtue,
right?
To watch him following the rules for Act 1, and then I don't know, by Act 3. They try to convey that, well, he's following the same rules he was following in Act 1, but he really means it now.
I think
I have to show the.
I guess my being able to see this again 12 years later, I kind of look at it through when I first watched it. This is all acceptable behavior, and the responses by the people around him, i.e. the reporter, i.e. the stewardess, the flight attendants, in general, like
I agree with you. The flight attendant scene is a bit much, but I remember thinking that was a bit much in 2008. Like, oh man, come on.
But I remember back in 2008 being like, you know what, the behavior of people in power, was more accepted because people didn't have a voice to say it was unacceptable, and or it was accepted by all parties, because in the 2000s, there was a different attitude towards sexuality. And I think Key and Peele kind of mocked it pretty spot on.
There's an attitude about the depiction of sexuality, but I mean, the sexuality has always been the same.
Okay, yes, the depiction of it. I think when you have the idea of women being sexual creatures as an empowerment movement, versus where I think now it seems as if that's not necessarily the case, in terms of the Me Too movement, making sure they're not being taken advantage of, put in situations that they don't want to be in. All good things. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just merely saying I feel as if the observation of the times is evident when I watch this movie versus if it had been done today. Because again, we didn't have social media in 2008. I really wonder if people would be live tweeting. I just think that whole opening scenario in his behavior toward women, I feel like I don't know if people. I feel like someone would have written an article, posted it on a blog with a clickbait headline, and this movie, sputters on takeoff. Like I feel like it wouldn't have cut the mustard, if it was to happen today.
I don't know if I can totally argue with that. I think it would be overblown. I think there would be an overblown reaction to it, and people would miss the fact that the whole point is that he was, he was gross and then he became cool. But
like, couldn't you see the headline? Misogynistic, character shows Marvel Universe is stuck in the 60s. You know what I mean? Like, there's
and they would miss the context. It would completely. Well, some of those outlets would miss the context. Some of those, and I mean, it's just because,
or they'd be purposely,
because outrage marketing is a big deal. It's not. It has really nothing to do with like the way our times have changed in general, or the the social tenets of our times have changed. It's just another system of monetization to be angry at something on a regular basis, and to remain angry, and to keep reminding everybody that you're angry about something.
Right.
And it's kind of not a referendum on society in and of itself.
Right.
It is actually a commercialized system being outraged. It's a commodity. So that's kind of where we're stuck. It's still capitalism.
Yeah,
you still manage to find a way to capitalize on being pissed off about the marginalization of unfortunate people. But I mean, it's still the same kind of slavery. It's still the same kind of exploitation. But it's exploitation, with the guise of virtue. Yeah. And so that's I guess you're right in that sense. But I think if any studio would ever, at whatever point, would take their character who is supposed to be despicable and dial back his despicability because they're worried about him being so that his despicable nature will turn people off, so that no one respects when he changes his ways. I just think that.
I mean, you saying that also just made me think that if they stayed the course, I could see the clickbait headlines to be like, look at how today's modern man is supposed to act. I mean, there are and then there would be outrage to that outrage. I mean, it's amazing. So, I mean,
because I think the biggest problem with it, every situation, you bring it back to the core, right? The core aspect of it isn't really that people are angry, or isn't that people feel marginalized, stuff like that. All of that stuff is real, and all of that is viable. Women, how they feel, how they don't feel respected, how they feel preyed upon, and whatever. All of that is viable. All of that is real. I do not question any of that. The problem is, we found a way to make money off of that, and thus
not us personally. We make no money. We literally make no money on this show.
It becomes a commodity that is here to stay, which is why we can't ever seem to kind of reason with it or stamp it out in some fashion. So even if we address it, it becomes, well, they said something about this, but they didn't say enough, because we got to find another revenue stream. There's got to be. So even when you apologize, so you get treated badly when you apologize, then you get treated badly if you don't apologize.
Right.
If you don't, so it's not really because that we are more morally, socially conscious. It's because we found a way to make money off of how socially despicable we usually are.
It's also the platform.
And so,
I mean, it's also the platform itself. It gives people an opportunity to be the shame police. It gives opportunity for people to go out there and feel empowered.
But that opportunity would go away. That would go away. That wouldn't be as strong as it is, or you would be able to address it and to a level of satisfaction if it wasn't monetized.
No, I disagree.
If it wasn't it's like content. It's like content.
There's a psychology to it too, though. I think there really is, because think about it. Not everyone is monetizing off of going out there and shaming other people. There's literally a feeling of empowerment that goes in to make yourself feel better. Yes, I agree. Nobody
would. I mean, look. The thing is that a tweet becomes a news story, right? A tweet becomes a news story. A tweet goes on an entertainment system, or an entertainment show, and we talk about someone who tweeted or what someone says, and then we talk about the fan reaction to whatever someone says. Like, people who are absolutely no names in entertainment now have their tweet shown as an indication of what the average person is thinking about Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop, and this and that, and suddenly it's monetized. Now they've monetized an average tweet. The person who tweeted feels 5 minutes of celebrity.
I know,
right? They're gonna tweet again. So it's monetization. Every problem in our capitalist society is when people find a way to make money off of bad things.
Right.
And then the fact that we can't seem to find a way to make money off of good things. So that's why things are always, things always skew negatively in the capitalism. So it is bad. It is a cultural thing. It is it is prevalent, especially with very young people. But I think it gets propagated because of the money that people can make off of it. It's exploitation all over again.
Well, it's interesting too because again, this is the genesis of the MCU. Sorry, Hulk, but the Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton.
Hulk came after this.
Did it? Oh, you're right. It did. All right. So this is the genesis of.
You keep saying that.
I thought Incredible Hulk came before, but you might be right.
End. The after credit scene is Tony Stark talking to.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, it's the genesis of the Marvel Universe, and it had to happen when it happened because nothing is more rogue than what Marvel did with Iron Man and with the MCU in general, right? I mean, no one had ever done that before. They really went and they took it in a way. They did something that basically every known quantity said to them, this is not going to happen. It's not going to succeed. You're not going to make Avengers 4 years later and have it be successful. You're not going to be able to plant Agent Coulson in this movie, which there was a certain part of me that I mean, what a nostalgic, because now the Marvel Universe doesn't, have the Agent Coulson kind of that, he was the heart and soul of the Avengers movie in 2012.
Yeah, he was the Rosario Dawson of the of the movies of the cinematic universe.
Right. So to see
because Rosario Dawson showed up in all the Marvel TV shows on Netflix.
Right. So to see him there, brought me back to this heart to the original first phase that I forgot about. And it's funny too because now, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. technically exists in this universe, but they just don't acknowledge it anymore. It's interesting how that kind of plays out. But there he is, there he is.
That's because of the showrunners, the heads of television and the heads of movies did not get along.
Yep. So again, you got to give credit and thank God they didn't have social media back then. I don't think it would have worked back then. It was a different time. What a simpler time when all we had to do was worry about armed terrorists in Middle Eastern countries we've never heard of. It actually did. I mean, all joking aside, it painted an accurate portrait of life in 2008, which was the fear of terrorism.
For some people, yeah.
What, the fear of terrorism? The fear of terrorism was an accurate.
No, I mean the knowledge that some of those things that weren't a problem because we weren't talking about them as a problem is true for some people. But the reason they're a problem now is because they were a problem then, and we weren't talking about them.
I guess
there is that other side of it.
I would say, all right, let me rephrase it. The largest problem at the time versus
the largest reported or talked about problem at the time. The largest concern.
It was still the largest concern. We were at war. I think war becomes the number one.
Still at war.
Concern. Well, technically speaking, we're not anymore. We're actually out of Afghanistan. We've actually officially ended the war out there. So that's actually kind of it's actually incredible to think about that too. It's been 12 years. I mean, that war itself took 19 years to complete.
We're still in the Middle East. We're still dealing with that stuff.
We are still dealing with it, but we are not officially.
And we're talking about Iran, and we're talking about China. I mean, that stuff. Of course. That stuff never really goes away.
No, that never really goes away. I'm just saying that the actual war on terror is officially, in the context of what it was created in the 2000s. No, I'm saying in the branded sense of this is our war on terror. We're going to war against Afghanistan, et cetera, et cetera. Those particular.
How about this?
Yeah.
Here you go. Don't say we. Say you.
When everything is good, it's we.
It is not we. I will not go along with we on that.
Couple things right from the beginning that Marvel just nails, right? Robert Downey Jr., perfect. I forgot Jeff Bridges was in this movie. I forgot Jeff Bridges was in a Marvel movie, and he's so good. Because he's Jeff Bridges. That's what he does. I mean, he's just great. Terrence Howard, I mean, what could have been with him? He was replaced. So
I wished it was Don. I actually watched that wishing it was Don Cheadle for the continuity.
Right, right.
But I did like Terrence Howard. I thought he did a good job. It would have been hard to buy kind of soft-spoken Terrence Howard as War Machine.
Yes.
That would have been kind of a stretch, but he probably could have done it.
You bring up a good point, though, actually. Don Cheadle is a better War Machine, but I like Terrence Howard as James Rhodes better. And I like the dynamic, that Robert Downey Jr. and he has.
There was a little more warmth between, which is ironic because I don't think the actors liked each other.
No, that's why he's not on the. I think
yes.
I'm making an educated guess based on the rumor mill that I'd heard that was why he was not in the films. And
while you're speaking of Jeff Bridges, the one thing I didn't notice, Jeff Bridges is good in everything, and didn't. And I'm not saying that you were surprised, but I mean it didn't surprise me that he was good. But what he actually did manage to do, which is probably why he's a great actor, is that he managed to be menacing without being menacing.
Yeah.
Like even when he was ridiculing people, like the scientist when he was, at the arc reactor and he was saying, I just need you to make this smaller. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, this technology doesn't exist. And Jeff Bridges actually hugs a guy and he goes, it's right here. And it's not a warmth hug. It's not a this guy is. Or when
he pulls Tony Stark aside at the press junket, and he's like, "Who do you think got you off here?" And you're like, "Oh, snap!" Who?
Well, yeah, but I mean, even in that, that's still it's still more avuncular, and it's more like kind of paternal. But I mean, when Obadiah actually just came out as full on villain of peace. Which, unfortunately, because of the medium we're using, he's going to be first of all, if you know Iron Man, Obadiah Stane is.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
He's an ironmonger, but also because of cinematic language, you're like, well, they didn't hire Jeff Bridges to be his father.
I know exactly what you're saying, and it's funny.
So
rewatching it,
you're like, okay, this guy's going to come out.
He's going to be the bad guy, right? He's also bald. Don't forget, they made him bald.
Yeah, he's a bald guy.
People are
bald
evil.
Bald guys are bad.
Evil.
I'll wear it. I'm wearing it. I'm fine. Yeah. Anyway, but his particular kind of menace, is friendly. And there are very few people who can do that. Who could come off dangerous.
Yeah.
But warm. At the same time, it's utter duplicity. It's like, this guy's so, and it makes him worse because you yourself as a viewer know that you'd probably get roped in too. It's like, oh man, he would have totally had me. Because I'd have been like, hey, Jeff Bridges thinks I'm cool, and they're like,
he's gonna kill
everything
and eat my family.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
no.
Very few people can do that.
It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool that Molaram found another job too. He, 20, 30 years or 27 years after, or 24 years after Temple of Doom. It was Molaram. It really wasn't, but looked like him.
No,
I kept thinking.
It was,
I kept looking at him.
It was the captain of the Franklin from Star Trek.
Oh, was it? Was he also in the
Brendan Fraser? Ironically, Chris Hemsworth's captain in
was he
in
in the Mummy at
Star
all?
Trek.
With Brendan Fraser, I feel like he was a bad guy in that too. That I'm actually
Why would you feel that way, Michael? He's too young to have been in the Mummy. That guy was too young.
You think so? I thought he was actually kind of old looking, but he looked like Molaram to me. Actually, as I watched this the second time around, I was like, "Oh, it's Molaram." Like when he got the scar on the side of the face, I was like, "Oh, he looks just like with the red and the
from
top."
30 years ago.
No, obviously it's not the same guy. Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. We can't get away with this kind of humor now.
You can. I wouldn't make that kind of humor, but I wouldn't have made that kind of humor in 2008. So
I know. And people kept telling me you were not very funny back then either.
Not as many people who tell me that you're not funny now. Not nearly as many.
I have not aged. My humor has not aged.
You have not aged well at all.
Humor. See, again, now if we set my humor in 2008, I am hilarious.
Well, you are in 2008. Don't worry. Everybody knows you're well entrenched in 2008. 2005 to 2008 is the domain of Michael.
The pinnacle of Mike Dolce is 2007 to 2009. That is my pinnacle years. Because I was like 28 and could do anything.
That's too bad, kid.
I know.
You're wearing that a little too proudly, as far as I'm concerned.
One thing I found really cool also that you don't see in movies. I mean, it's amazing to me.
Hold on, you just contradicted yourself.
What's that?
Because you made those jokes. Now, you touted the fact that they're 2008 jokes, but you still, in the process of your commercial empire, right? You made those jokes.
Yeah.
Meaning those things happen. It still happens. It's fine.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
And you're not gonna. I really doubt you'll be canceled for that.
I'm on such a level.
That is true.
You need fans. You need actually.
On a level.
You need actual people
that
can make money off of our cancellation to try to cancel us. Because quite frankly,
I said it was monetized.
We're not there yet.
Back to my point.
I know, and you know, I'm not sure if it was said or not, but we don't make any money on this show, so no one can take our money from us. We can't.
No, yeah. Don't worry.
One of the things I thought
find a way.
So interesting, though, too, of what a great blueprint this is. Not just to start a universe, a shared universe, the world building. I mean, that aspect we kind of talked about a little while ago, but just the blueprint for how to make a nice origin movie. Westworld, where are you?
Westworld season 1 is highly regarded.
I love Westworld season 1.
Even I have Westworld season 1 on
Westworld
Blu-ray, the obsolete obsolete
the 8-track. Do you have the 8-track version too?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that there? Yeah. You know, that joke is definitely from 2008 because the Gen Z kids are like, what's an 8-track? They have no idea. And they have no idea why that's actually hilarious.
Well, most kids from 1998 didn't know what an 8-track was. So
no, but I was a teenager in 1998. So you knew of 8-track from your parents. Now we're kind of like, we're so far along now. They literally show him. You know, it's not like he just comes out with his Iron Man costume. They show, it's not a montage necessarily, but I'll call it a montage of him succeeding, failing, his ups, his downs. The Iron Man suit it's not like he just all of a sudden, one of the things I didn't like about Avengers Endgame, one of the details of Avengers Endgame is that he figured out time travel in the span of 2 seconds, like literally. And I get it.
Because they had a lot of stuff they had to do.
They had a lot of stuff they had to cover. So it was a shortcut to doing it, but it came across to me as a shortcut. Here, there's no shortcut. They didn't
have as much to do.
I understand. But they give you, and I thought Thor, the original Thor movie did this as well too. The very first one, they give you, it's just it's a solid template for movie making, for storytelling. They gave you the challenges that he faced. It wasn't just like, well, I need to become Iron Man now, and he's Iron Man a scene later. They give you all the work.
You know why so many people fail at that?
Why?
Because of characterization.
Yeah.
Because if you make part of the story, part of the events, part of the building of the character, the evolution of the character, the fleshing out of the character, the fact that character has to go through all these trials to make the suit in the first place, instead of trying to rush to the suit so you can have an action set piece,
right?
Then the audience is going to be there. It's like, I get what he's doing now. I get his struggle. Oh, that would be very hard, like the icing thing. They explain to you. It's like, okay, you won't want to do that again,
right?
Because he plummeted from the sky. So
right.
It's very difficult to do because a lot of people make stories or make content for disingenuous purposes, and I'm not talking about nefarious purposes or with an agenda or whatever, but a lot of people are making content because they want to get to something. I want to get to this. I want to get to the lightsaber fight between Kylo Ren and Rey.
Right.
I want to do, and I want to make it amazing because they're going to be surrounded by water. I see that. So we just got to build up to that.
Right.
And the problem is, it's like if it's not a process for you, if it's not an enjoyable evolution for you as the creator, to get from that point to the set piece, then it's not going to be enjoyable for the reader or for the audience to watch it. And that's why. And some people can pull it off. Some people can fake it. That's why everything is so difficult, because there are some people who don't care, but they can fake it. Every now and then, Michael Bay, in my opinion, makes perfectly acceptable movie. I
thought Armageddon was highly enjoyable.
Like I said, I didn't like Armageddon at all. But I mean, every now and then, I liked
First Transformers. First Transformers was fun.
I liked The Rock. I liked Con Air. I liked some of his stuff. No, Transformers, no.
I like the first Transformers.
No.
I enjoyed it. I mean, it wasn't.
Were you a G1 Transformers fan?
No, I mean,
That's why.
I enjoyed
That's
the
why
cartoon.
you were all right with it.
No, I
That's
enjoyed.
why.
Oh well, no, I enjoyed the original cartoon. Yeah, I did.
Were
I
you a
enjoyed it.
fan of G1, or did you just watch it? You were too young to really be a fan.
Well, that's
of
what I'm
G1
saying.
to
I
be
wasn't.
into
Yeah, I wasn't like
G1.
obsessed over it. I loved it. I loved all my toys, and I
Yeah,
loved
but did
the
you
idea.
like the story?
You know,
of,
also, I got to be honest with you. You know, again, and this goes back to
here we
Iron Man
go.
2,
Who is
right?
Vector Sigma?
Oh gosh, yeah, no, I wouldn't even know that.
There you
Here's
go.
the
See,
thing.
that's what I'm talking about. That's the difference.
Again, you're a nerd. I'm a geek. We've established this. That's
Proud.
that's our dynamic. But that should be our new tagline: one nerd, one nerd enters, one geek.
I despise geeks.
And this is good. It's good that you kind of brought that up though too. I mean, like this movie. Both had to overcome the fact that movies like it didn't exist prior to it. That's why we call it a rogue movie. I mean, it really is a rogue. It did things in a rogue. Iron Man. It did things in a rogue way. You know, whereas my enjoyment level of Transformers, if they made the Transformers movie they made when it first came out now, I would sit there and say, well, this is terrible. This is not faithful to the source material. This is not blah, blah, blah.
Always sitting there. You're always sitting there and saying something. Don't you ever stand and say something?
No, I prefer to sit.
Anything.
I prefer to sit. But
I get it.
Back when the first Transformers movie came out, my thinking was, and I think other people I've talked to as well had the same mindset. Well, this is the best we're going to get. Like we just have to kind of accept this because we're not going to. We can't get the exact thing that we want. And
that's why they kept giving you movies like that, because
when it does happen, when an Iron Man happens, you sit there and go, oh my gosh, I didn't know they could do that. When an Avengers happens in 2012, you go, this is everything we've always wanted and didn't think we could get. And that's why
they lead by example. They say
yes.
It can be done by showing you it can be done.
Yes.
I mean
that's what makes this even more amazing the second time around. All right. If you disagree with us, could they have pulled off? I mean, I feel like we could have
had yourself if you disagree.
I feel like we could have had an entirely separate conversation just on that point alone of whether or not they could get away in today's overly sensitive social media world, or sensitive social media world, however you want to describe it, in the monetized social media world. Let us know. Chime in on the Facebook feed. We check that thing all week long as well too. So if you don't catch the live stream, we'll come back and do some replies as well. If you're listening to us again on Apple Podcast, all that fun stuff, you can check us out on Facebook.com/RogueWavePodcast to get in on the interactivity. If you want to just listen to us chatter back and forth, well, we appreciate it. All right. When we come back, the state of the comic book industry as we go spinning the racks. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave Podcast, talking comics, movies, TV, and pop culture every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, on Facebook.com/Rogue Wave Podcast and Twitch.tv/Rogue Wave Podcast. We are big fanboys of comics and graphic novels. He is a nerd, I am a geek. And every week, we like to bring you the inside info on the source material that will make its way onto the large and small screen. Very soon, we call this segment Spinning the Racks.
Spin the rack, spin that rack.
Geppy, Groth, Richardson, Ritchie, and Wood talk the state of comics. Quote, the industry is going to see a lot of change. This is from Comics Beat, friend of the show. Heidi McDonald does a great website, runs a great website, and has a great weekly newsletter, a monthly newsletter. Her newsletter transmissions have been less frequent during the pandemic. I think she's been dealing with this as well. But 4 publishers and Steve Geppy from Diamond engaged in a state of the industry talk, the kind you've been waiting for. It was on, I think, comicbook.com. Dark Horse publisher Mike Richardson, Fantagraphics publisher Gary Groth, Dirk Wood from IDW, and Boom publisher Ross Ritchie. Mark Waid was supposed to join. He did not. He was not able to get on due to technical issues. But they focused on what the industry could do to support retailers, with news that the first FOC was more, was going to happen, which is the distribution of the comics going to different stores. It was the final order cutoff for the, to be specific. It was more than what Diamond had expected, and Boom's Richie confirmed it was more than they had hoped. So the pipeline is actually moving. So some positive news. Just a couple of bullet points from the conversation that they had. Diamond is planning some secret things, including fundraising efforts for the industry and something exciting, which I don't know what that means, but who knows? Maybe it's exciting for them. None of the publishers were thrilled when Diamond told them they wouldn't be paid, but all could see it coming down the pike with the COVID-19 disruption. Groth was a little pricklier here, according to the article, noting they had survived without Diamond's money for now, but the next 6 months would be rough. Geppy continued to talk about the back issue sales. He admits he had not been at the Switch for a while and missed some things, but he's back full time now. So that's interesting too, an admission that he kind of took a back seat because Diamond really their money's coming from toys, I think, from and statues and collectibles from what I've gathered.
It's the industry's fault, man. They allowed them to have a monopoly. You
Yep.
know, now we're trying to deal with what happens when you let one company monopolize how your industry is going to run, and then that company starts to falter. You know.
Yeah.
So that's a testimony to foresight. Like, just have some insight and see, what if the family car breaks down?
Well, this is the funny part too, because it keeps in the article keeps mentioning and the trend and the actual roundtable. Steve Geppy from Diamond had a very overall positive outlook, but it's easy to be positive when you're the only game in town, and essentially when you come back, you're going to have all these people come back to you. He reiterated comics are in a good place. We can make choices, we can lament and do nothing, or we can look for new opportunities. I see this as a restart for the whole industry. Just interesting coming from him. It's just interesting coming from him as the sole, his company's the sole distribution source. So it's just interesting.
This is why we're such terrible people. This it goes to what I was saying before about like monetizing the outrage, like because there's an incentive behind it. That's why the outrage is allowed to proliferate, right?
Yeah.
Because you're able to make your donut, in the way the conditions are currently currently established, you never look for a solution to that condition just in case. Well, I'm making my money, so why would I want to mess anything up?
Yeah.
But it's like, well, this is an unsustainable system. I remember that when we were kids, in the 90s, we were like, we want to do an independent book. Oh, I said this before. We want to do an independent book. Oh, you got to get past Diamond. Diamond may not want to put your book out. And I remember thinking, hell with Diamond. I'm just doing a book on my own. If I offer to pay Diamond the money, to print my book and then to distribute it, who are they to tell me no? I'm offering them a service. Right. I'm offering them money for the service. I'm not asking for a handout.
Right.
And the fact that they would just arbitrarily decide, well, this is not indicative of our bottom line, and so therefore, we're going to gatekeep and hold you out to keep a level of quality control or whatever you want to call it, right? So the industry is okay with it. I remember thinking like, okay, the rest of the industry is all right with this just because they're on the inside. A pandemic happens in 2 months, Michael. 2 months, the whole industry is threatened.
Right.
No matter what it does, movies, TV shows, scandals, all this other stuff that threatened to bring the comic book industry down, it actually faltered because one company was deciding to shelter in place, and they kind of shut everything out. And now you got retailers losing money. You got the industry losing money. Everybody is going to fold because of it, because no one had the foresight to go, what happens if something happens to Canada?
Well, that's the thing that's so interesting, though. And again, reading all the transcripts and watching if you watch the exchange, again, Geppy from Diamond kept saying, I think the industry is going to see a lot of change, and I think it could be for the good. But it's just But, well, you know what? Unless he's being completely selfless when he says things like that, understanding that the change might need to be that there's more than one Diamond. I mean, and people,
a lot of people are going to get crushed, and then it will get better. I mean, it's not going to be better.
Here's the
It's going to be
reality.
better in the long run in the aggregate. It's not
Right.
going to be better in the
Right.
immediately by any
And
stretch of the
here's my sad prediction. Right, it's my sad prediction for all this stuff. I think things go right back to the way
predictions
they
are
were.
always sad. Your predictions are like depressing.
I'm a very positive guy too. I think everything goes right back to the way it was.
Yeah, because you know
Because
why?
it takes more effort. It takes more effort to change, and we were given 2 months to do so. And in that time, if it didn't come, like DC's step for altered distribution was the only movable object, unless you count
everybody else
Kickstarter.
decided to wait it out to try
Right.
to wait it out.
Right, and again, I'm not talking about indie comics and Kickstarter comics because that saw a huge uptick, at least in my circle, in terms of people flocking to that for content. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in the retailer system, the way comics are distributed, the way the publishers interact with the retailers, the way the publishers actually release their content to the public. Only one company did anything about it, was DC, and they did it in a way that is temporary, and or at least I believe will be temporary and not permanent. And so I think we're just going to be right back
because it's easier to make money the way we're making money. So
Yep.
why would we stop trying to make money the way we're making money? That's the logic of it,
Yep.
you know. And the one, it's the guy who builds a bunker under his house.
Yep.
You know, and
And
he's like,
we will try to figure out how to make money on this show. And then, see, that's what we learned in this pandemic. Is we should somehow try to make money off this, which we still have not done. All right, that's our show for tonight. Thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate it. Next week, our May movie blockbuster of yesteryear, our Rogue Retro series continues. No Time for Love, Dr. Jones, the most controversial Indiana Jones movie. Well, maybe not controversial. Well, maybe at the time. Temple of Doom will be retro reviewed next week. Rogue Wave.